I got to work on a new intro. I've had that one for like 8 months now. So, but anyways, welcome back to Quest for Faith with Brian. I got two guests on tonight, Sarah and Jen. Y'all have seen them on both before on different weeks going over the Catechism in a year. Ladies, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I know it's Saturday night. My wife complains the whole time that she's like, why Saturday night? We have church in the morning. It's not a good time. I'm like, there's not a good time. So I really appreciate y'all coming on. So anyways, no worries. And so today we're going to be covering the fifth week or most of the fifth week. And really kind of looking at the creeds and the first little part of that of talking about God. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm finding this like there was so many little historical tidbits in this section that really just kind of, I don't know, made the history nerd in me get all excited when it was talking about like where languages came from, like symbol and all that stuff when it talks about creeds. I don't know. What was your guys' initial reaction to this week for first starting off with the creeds and going into, who God is and all that?
It's my first time I realized I need to update my catechism because, our creeds changed.
Oh, yeah.
And everything has been pretty much word for word. And then he started reading through the creeds and I went, oh, yes, this is why I need a new catechism.
How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I really love that aspect of it. Like, I'm also a huge history nerd. And for me, just learning those connections in history is really fun for me. I loved like the connection with the word symbol, like
yes.
symbolon or whatever.
Yeah.
Just that imagery of it being like a signal of the missing part, like that. Yeah, it speaks to what makes it complete. So yeah, I just love that.
So I don't know for you, Sarah. Jen, I know you're a cradle Catholic, so you've grown up with the creeds. You've said them your entire life. So, but where did y'all do creeds at all? See, neither did I.
Mm-mm.
So all of this stuff was brand new for me when I joined, and we were almost anti-creed, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's man-made. We shouldn't say any of that. It's like,
yeah.
Like, no, that's not the case. But I think, no, I found that kind of interesting. And well, like some Protestants do creeds, like the Methodists do, and they'll do the Nicene Creed every now and then, and they'll even say the Catholic part. But then after the end, the preacher was like, "Hey, we don't mean Catholic as in Catholic Church. We mean Catholic as in the whole Christendom, which is
universal.
Universal, right?"
Yep. Yeah. I have a coworker who, Jay, he's Presbyterian, so he said he would not say that part. That's how anti-Catholic he was. He would just not say the word.
Yes, good old Jay. I used to sit next to that guy. That's
awesome. I didn't use creeds growing up, but I got more into them like when I got into college and was learning about the history of the church. And at that time in my life, I was part of an emergent house church, essentially, and we were sitting down to write kind of membership guidelines, which we hadn't really planned on having any kind of membership because it was this kind of free-flowing thing. But when we sat down, we kind of brought up the creeds and we're like, well, at least we can agree to what's in the creed, right? And there were a handful of people who were like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, this is like the bare bones Christianity. Yes. And you can't agree with what's here. And it was just, so as I was reading through the catechism this time and spending like time thinking about it, I was like, man, it's such a blessing that we have this resource that really outlines all of the details, what everything means. So there isn't any second guessing or like, well, I don't really jive with that part of the creed, but like this part's okay. So yeah, just feel really grateful that we have that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And if I could ever get the Nicene Creed memorized completely so I don't have to read it in mass, I will be very excited. So
we have it up on the projector screen.
Well,
so
my church is really traditional, and so sometimes every now and then we'll sing it in Latin. And so I'll read that because I don't know Latin well enough. I can say it when I'm reading it, but I can't, I don't, but yeah, and a lot of times if we go to like the 10 o'clock mass, it's sung, which totally throws me off. If we're just saying it, I'm way better. But when we start singing it, I'm like, anyways. But no, this section was just fabulous to me, kind of, and starting to unpeel the onion, so to speak, and talking about the importance of creeds and the profession of faith. And you're right with the symbol with the two halves and it joined together, and this whole idea, and just the idea of creed and the meaning credo, I believe, is just such a fabulous statement, and it's so crazy that it can spend this much time and effort spelling out these simple concepts that we think are simple, but there's so much thought that goes into them.
Yeah, and it's such a protection for the church, like having these things spelled out, because there were so many splinter off groups in the first few centuries of the church that were what's the word? Like heretical groups.
Mm-hmm.
So having that well defined was like essential. And I also thought it was interesting that the creeds were really this growth out of creeds that were said before people were baptized. Like when adults were being brought into the church, like they were having to make this statement of faith. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
I'm glad I got to join the church now versus then, because they were hardcore. Like you couldn't even sit in mass. Once it was the Eucharist, the liturgy of the Eucharist, you had to leave back then if you weren't baptized. So I'm glad that I'm doing it now. So
I remember those days when the candidates were invited to leave.
Oh, really? Even for you?
See, when I was a kid in my home church, they would attend as a group, and the priest would recognize them, and then would invite them to leave.
Wow!
At that specific point in mass.
Ours does that too, actually.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know why ours doesn't. Man, we're like total traditional on everything except that, I guess. So
yeah, hey. St. Jude doesn't.
Yeah, St. Jude doesn't. Yeah. Cool. So let's kind of move along, because I thought that whole section was great, but with the I believe in starting off with God, right? That the creed starts off with God, and that it should, because I mean it's got, and how it talked about the creed is separated out into three parts with God, the Holy Trinity, right? But this whole concept of what does it mean to believe in God, and what is it believing in one God, I thought was beautifully articulated throughout this section. If anyone's wondering what we're talking, it's 198 through, I don't know, 202 in the Catholic Catechism is what the section we're on. But what did you guys think about that? And just spending that much time saying, okay, well, what does it mean when you say I believe in God? Jen, you got anything?
Let me think for a second. But overall, it was the emphasis on just God and trying to understand who God is, while acknowledging that we will never truly know on this earth who God is. So trying to get to that understanding and just reconciling that mystery. And then we kind of start walking through, how the various ways he reveals himself, but just really that, just that the, I don't know how to put it in words, but just really how God started working with the ancient peoples and the peoples of the Old Testament, to help them understand him, and then moving forward from there.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at, paragraph 200 kind of starts talking about that when it's saying confessing of God's oneness, right? Which is its root in the divine revelation of the old covenant, inseparable from the profession of God's existence, and is equally fundamental. And it's this idea of starting off with God is saying, yeah, no, we believe in the old faith. God is the same God that the Israelites first believed in. And it's still the one faith that we're moving forward with. Sarah, did you get anything out of that section?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the whole, like, scratching the surface of the mystery of the Trinity is really amazing. Like, seeing the ways that Jesus was hidden in the Old Testament and, like, to the Jewish people. There's a replica of the Jewish tabernacle close to where I live, and when we visited it, they always showed, like, in the I think it was in the Holy of Holies or right outside of it, they had the offerings, and there was, like, the bread and wine offering there. And it was like this foreshadowing of the Eucharist. And it was amazing to think, like, it was, like, right in front of their eyes, but they couldn't see it. You know what I mean? Like, that connection. So just being able to draw that line from the same God that was talking to Moses is the same God that, like, Jesus is in the New Testament is it's really hard to wrap your mind around and really cool at the same time.
Yeah, it is. And when it's that section of talking about revealing his name and how that's how he got personal with us. And I don't know about y'all, but I never realized that when they capitalized Lord, that was the English version of Yahweh or Antonai. And so when it says Jesus is Lord, that's the abbreviated name that the Jews would use for God. And so it's saying Jesus is God is what it's saying. Like the same God as the Israelites. And this idea of the I am, right? I've always found that fascinating. I am who I am, and that I'm everywhere, and that I am all knowing. But it's like for the first time he reveals himself with Moses and starts building this relationship, Jen, like you were talking about with the Israelite people and just showing his mercy through his acts of either condemning our kindness and helping them out. But this section there going from when God reveals his name, and that's what 203 to really what 211. That whole section diving into that was amazing for me. What did you guys think about paragraph 208 when it's talking about all the different times people come face to face with God and they fall on their face? And I've always loved Peter's line of depart from me, for I am a sinful man. Because I'm like, oh, I'm right there with you, dude. Like, but this idea that he's so great and holy that when you realize it, you can't do anything but fall on your face when you know what's happening, that you're being exposed to God. And I love that imagery that it so plainly paints there for us. Where I think if you're reading it through scripture, you might not like you get it, but I love how it points that out there. I don't know. That was one section I really liked.
I think it's kind of cool, like as someone who has come into the church, just seeing, like, one of the first things that hit me when I went to Mass was the reverence, like just the recognition that it's a holy place and that God is holy. And when you grow up in a culture of Christianity where Jesus is portrayed as like your best buddy, like your friend, which is true.
Buddy Jesus.
Like it, yeah.
I'm dating
like,
myself. You remember that movie, but
hippie, yeah. But yeah, so having that image of him, which is true in a sense, of course, but like doesn't reveal the entire truth of who he is and his holiness. So being able to experience that through the Mass was really life-changing, and really cool to kind of step into that, because it's really a place where humans are meant to be, which is like in friendship with God, but also like in his presence, which is experiencing holiness.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that I completely agree with you. And that was kind of one of the first things I noticed when I went to Mass the first time. I was like, wow, this is different, but I like it. I don't know what's going on here, but I like it.
And growing up Catholic and traveling to relatives, going away to school, moving states, attending Mass in various different churches, it still is always that same feeling, no matter what church you're walking into, where it is this hushed, holy place. Mm-hmm. And that's the only place I've felt that level of holiness. I've been to we talked about this last time, I've been to lots of other services. I don't get that same feeling. Mm-hmm. And the holiness comes because I know in my heart that God is there, and that I'm in God's presence, and that I get to participate in worship and receive the Eucharist. And it is very sacred, it is very reverent. And it's also just, it's universal. It's no matter what church you go to, you're going to have this experience.
Yep. Yeah, and I really think that speaks to like what it talks about in this kind of section of the Catechism about like the unity in what we believe and the unity in language. One of the things I wrote down, and this is from the previous section, but communion in faith needs a common language of faith, normative for all and uniting all in the same confession of faith. And I think that, yeah, you do feel that anytime you walk into any Catholic church, whether you're here or around the world, you're experiencing that same language of faith, even if it's not in your language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I've met a few people that you go when they've gone overseas and they've gone to Mass in like Italian or German. And it's like, they don't know what they're saying, but they know what part of the Mass they're on. Right. And they're mm-hmm. like, oh, I know what's happening, which is really cool, because you would have no clue if it was a Protestant church. So, so let's kind of move on to I think the next real section, kind of who is God. And that's kind of starting in 212 and kind of working pretty close to the end there. I think 221. But this concept of God alone is, and there was a lot of little tidbits in here that I really liked, with the idea of God alone is, the God is truth, God is love. I don't know. I just put God is, I jotted this down. God is steady, God is truthful, and God is love is kind of my summary of this section. Just to put it down in a phrase. But what was y'all's reactions going through this last section of who God is?
I think you hit it with the steadiness. Like, God doesn't change. He is who he is. And who he is truth and love. And we can change, and we kind of go back and forth. And I think, even in our closeness with him, but he's the same. He doesn't change.
Yeah. In this section on, I think it's 214. Is that where I wrote that note down? Yes. Yeah, the feet that God, the fact that God is unchanging and is ever present. And then it starts off in the next paragraph. The sum of your words is truth, and every one of your righteous ordinances endures forever. And this comfort that we can have, that we know that God is steady, God is always there, and anything we get from him is truth. It's just, I don't know about y'all right now, but I feel like everything's turbulent, and this is very comforting.
Yes.
To hear this. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to remember this,
Yeah.
because Lord help us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in this culture of like everyone discovering your truth, like what is true for you, and even coming from a Protestant background where people are discovering what your interpretation of the Bible is, or like what your truth about the Bible is, which is like this Christian relativism. It's so like freeing to step into the truth that God has revealed through his church, because you're not looking at everything with suspicion anymore. Like you're really like leaning into this faithfulness of God through his church. So yeah, I think that that's such an awesome gift that we have. And yeah, I wanted to echo also just like the idea that like the faithfulness of God has been something in my life personally, has just been a constant theme. Like despite all of the things going on and difficulties and stuff, we can rely on his faithfulness to like fulfill his promises in our lives. So
Yeah. Yeah, and the when it drops down into the God is love section, and I underlined this in 119. His love will be victorious over even the worst infidelities, and will extend to his most precious gift. God so loved the world that he gave his only son. And just thinking of, I mean, we have perfect examples of this in the Bible, right? Like, no matter how wretched we think we are, and we are because we're human. Uh, oop, that's fine. Hey, Joseph, my son's on again. No matter how wretched we are, God still loves us. And you look at what the Israelites did, that he was still there for them and still loved them, and still let his son be born into them, right? Like that concept is amazing.
And it's
To have that
recurring. It
yes.
just it repeats. It's over and over again throughout the Bible. So it's almost like God is just beating us over the head. Like you have to understand, no matter what, I'm here. I don't change, and I love you. Like he just reinforces it time and time again.
Praise God for that, because we're idiots. So, or at least I am. I will firmly admit that. So kind of let's jump down to the implications of faith in one God section, the very last section in this, that's starting in 222 down to 227. This was, to me, this is like the rubber meets the road section, right? So we talked about who God is. We talked about how God revealed himself to us, who God is, and then more deeply in who God is with steady truth and love. But what does it mean to actually profess the faith in the creed, and where the rubber meets the road, right? And so did y'all have any kind of ahas or takeaways in this final section here?
Yeah, this one is it's tough, kind of. I don't know if I guess it could be kind of a prayer. My Lord and my God, take from me everything that distances me from you. My Lord and my God, give me everything that brings me closer to you. My Lord and my God, detach me from myself to give my all to you. And that's hard. That's really hard, to get to a place in life where you're able to let go of things that take you away from God, because we have a lot of those things in our lives. And so I think just it made me realize I need to understand, and I need to do a better job of letting God work in my life to take away those things and to accept them when they get taken away as a blessing from God and not a punishment.
Yeah, no, completely. And this last section, or 227, when it says, it means trusting God in every circumstance, even in adversity. A prayer to, then it goes into another prayer from Saint Teresa of Jesus. But story time, truth time. I actually confessed this today earlier when I went to confession, because I don't feel that I'm doing it. And I'm like downtrodden and upset about things. And I'm not, and I feel like, and I think it's hitting me harder because I read this and I'm like, man, I'm not doing that at all. I am not fully trusting and believing in God the way that I should. But I love how this spells it out for us just in plain English there.
Joseph, we did talk about Jehovah. We did. Oh. You missed it. Should have come on earlier.
Hey, at least my 9-year-old knows some stuff. There we go. I'm doing something right, y'all.
Side story.
I might not be believing in God all the way right, but my son knows some stuff, so we're good. I'm doing something right as a father.
My little one had her first reconciliation. And so, it's a little bit nervous. They're nervous and they just don't quite know what to do. And I did something with her that I didn't do with my other two. I don't know why it didn't occur to me to do it with the other two, but we practiced. I pretended like I was the priest and we walked through it. And so the one thing that I remembered to tell her was, he's going to bless you and he's going to go like this, but you don't follow his hand. You just make the sign of the cross as normal. It's going to be opposite. And he told her she was doing great, I guess. And then he prefaced, I'm going to, and you need to, and she's like, oh no, my mom already did this. Like, I know what to do.
That's great.
But it's always so fascinating because they go in so nervous and then you say, okay, how was it? Oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
And it's just such a blessing that we have this. You went to confession, you're able to confess, and then you have that relief of, okay, and now we start over and we move forward. So I love that.
Because God is steady. No, you're on the same topic. God is steady. God is love or truth, and God is love. Right? He's always there for us, and always. And that's the hard part, is fully trusting in Him. Yeah. So Sarah, did you have anything on this section too?
You guys said a lot of what I was gonna say. So, but yeah, I think that a lot of modern day Christianity is focused on God blessing us and good things happening in our lives because we follow God. And the reality of it is the rain falls on the righteous and the sinners, you know what I mean? So it's trusting in God and trusting in his faithfulness and his goodness, even when it doesn't seem like we're getting blessed in our lives. And that's difficult. And it's like you said, it's where the rubber meets the road. Is your faith actually going to carry you through this, or are you going to abandon God because you feel like he's abandoned you in your life? So yeah, I think a lot of these things, these implications, are this faith and love in action. So if you love God, it means that you're going to make good use of all created things. You're going to use them in the way that God created them in his design, and trust that even though you might not want to or whatever, that it's essentially for your good and you'll be happier because of it.
Yeah. Yep. No, I absolutely love this section of breaking it down, and I'm excited to kind of keep going on this, but that's all we're going to cover today. So we're good there. But Yeah, no, I'm still enjoying this. I listened to this week I listened to it and then I read it later because I wasn't able to like sit and listen and take notes like I was trying to do. It was kind of like, okay, I'm going to listen to what he says. All right, now I need to go read it because I got to prep. So
yeah, I'm a visual learner, so I like need it in front of me to like really be able to take it in. So I do the same kind of thing. Like I'll listen to what he says, Father Mike, and then like actually dive into it by like reading it. So
cool. Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on once again. I truly appreciate y'all taking it. Well, I guess it was only 30 minutes this time. It was shorter, guys. We cut off 15 minutes from the last two times. So I love having you guys on, and thank you so much for coming on. Sarah, Jen, I know you don't have a channel, so I'll pause there. But
Nope.
Jen's like, and I'm not.
Nope.
Sarah, what do you got going on in your channel?
Nothing.
Nothing yet? Yeah.
It's been so busy and my life has been so crazy this week. And I keep like, I did one video, not this past week, but the week before. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get on it again, like every week. And
then life hit you.
Didn't do it.
You know what?
We
need to do a video on church history and early church fathers. I think that'd be a fun one to co-do together. That'd be fun.
Oh my gosh. That would be fun. I actually just started like researching that kind of thing. So it would be, maybe we can split up the research so it's less work.
Yeah, I'm good with that because it's mounting. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome. Well, I still love your channel. It's great every time you put some stuff out. So keep working at it, Mama. I know you got a job and kids and husband and all that. And that's why I like this live stuff. I don't have to edit anything. I just sit live and talk for 30 minutes and then hang up. So it's a little easier. So, but Jen, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. And I will reply to your husband there.
Thank you.
On his question. So thank you, ladies, very much. And till next week, y'all. Everyone have a good one. And please like, share, and subscribe. And go check out Sarah's channel too. So anyways, thanks, y'all.
Yep.
Bye.
All right. Bye.